Welcome back to the video, and today we are talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers headed into the 2025 NFL season. Now, it's been a while since my last upload. I do apologize. We are back on the streak of uploading every single team's 2025 NFL season prediction. So I'm going through literally every team, all 32, talking about a brief recap of their season last year, then what to expect this year with a record prediction, players to watch, all that kind of good stuff. We are in the early stages. I want to be much further along than we currently are. We have only done the Bengals and the Ravens, and now today is the Steelers. So if you missed the first two, you haven't missed much. Go check them out. We're going to be doing this by division, though. So we're AFC North right now. Next will probably be the AFC South, and then East, and then West, and then move to the NFC. I do want these all done. Well, no, sorry, not do. It is going all to be, that's a bad way of phrasing that. All these are going to be uploaded before the start of the season, which is September 4th. So not even kidding, the final episode might be like September 3rd or even earlier on September 4th. It's going to be very, very close because of how inconsistent it's been the past couple weeks. We're back on it now. I still got to get you guys a couple tier list videos. We will be on the lookout for that, or we will be doing those soon, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, otherwise, the main focus are the NFL team prediction videos for 2025. So if you enjoy these, make sure leave a like, subscribe. I would appreciate it. And now into the video. Last season was a solid year for Pittsburgh, but not much more. Russell Wilson, he kind of came in after Fields played those first 5-6 games, whatever it was for him. Or at least started the first 5-6 games. 5 touchdowns, 1 interception for Fields. Not bad, but you could tell he just wasn't going to be the guy to take that team to the next level. So they put in Russell Wilson, who had a pretty good season, 2,400 yards and 16 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Much better than his first season in Denver, and a bit better than even just his most previous season in Denver, so 2 years ago now. But again, I think you were confident enough in either of these guys on the field. Obviously, with Fields, you could kind of play him a few different ways. You could have him in like 3rd and 4th and short downs to, run the ball, trick pass, that kind of stuff. And it was a fun offense, but again, it was just that stuck middle of the road that the Steelers have found themselves in for quite a few seasons now, where you're not really bad, but you're not really good either. You're just competitive, and you're not getting a high enough pick to greatly improve your team, but you're not doing, good enough to make a run at a Super Bowl. You're just kind of stuck getting into the wild card and then losing first round, if that. Again, this is a solid team, though. Rushing-wise, Najee Harris did crack 1,000 yards with those 6 touchdowns, and Jalen Warren with 511 and 1 touchdown. Obviously, we will touch on running back here in a moment, so just hang on to that thought. Receiving-wise, George Pickens, who, again, we will touch on in a moment here, he had 900 yards and 3 touchdowns. Pat Freiermuth, 7 touchdowns and 653. Calvin Austin III, pretty underappreciated, actually. He's a very solid player. 548 and 4 touchdowns. Overall, though, this is just a Steelers team where you knew what you were going to get in the sense of they're going to be competitive. They're going to give teams that are much better than them a tough time, even if it doesn't necessarily always end in a win. And while, yeah, it was inconsistent as far as the offensive efficiency, it was still a competitive team for the most part, week in and week out, but they just needed something big, and I do think they tried to do that this offseason for what it's worth. Defensively, Minkah Fitzpatrick, who again we will definitely talk about here in a minute, he did his thing. You have Patrick Queen coming from Baltimore. They're in Pittsburgh. Very solid season for him. Peyton Wilson, the rookie linebacker, who I think a lot of people were watching as like a possible steal at the draft. Very solid season for him. Dre Porter Jr., of course, in his second year. And then TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith. It was a very good Steelers defense, per usual. But a lot looks different now going into 2025. So the Steelers right now, at least offensively, Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Warren, Caleb Johnson, Metcalf, Calvin Austin, Robert Woods, Freiermuth, Connor Hayward, Roger Jones, Isaac Samalo, Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, and Troy Fautanu make up the entire offense. And again, let's just start with Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot to talk about for the Steelers going into 2025, especially changes to both the offense and defense. But for Rodgers, this is like the best move they could have made. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say Rodgers is going to lead them to a Super Bowl. I don't think it's going to happen. But I do think he's the perfect bridge quarterback to keep you competitive to where you can still evaluate other positions on your team and be competitive without having to like just absolutely tank with a terrible quarterback in there. And then also Will Howard, for what it's worth, from Ohio State, national champion, gets to now learn under Aaron Rodgers. Maybe, I'm not going to go super into it, but maybe. We'll see what happens in the future. Maybe sitting out for a year, learning under Rodgers. Maybe Howard steps in next year and actually makes the most of his opportunity. But as of right now, Rodgers is going to be the starter unless anything happens as far as injuries go. And I think he is still a good quarterback. I think people don't like him maybe off the field. And also, he was just not that good on the Jets. So it's a perfect storm of just bad media perception and everybody wanting him to fail. Talking strictly on the field, though, I think it's not really a surprise. I would hope it's not really a surprise to anyone that, like, shockingly, the 40-year-old coming off an Achilles tear was not super great footwork wise and with his fluidity, which, big shocker there. But I think already this offseason, he looks a lot more comfortable. And again, this is an older quarterback, all-time great or not. It is tough to come back from an Achilles tear, regardless, across the board for whatever position in football, basketball, baseball, I don't care what it is. It's a horrible injury to have. You add that with Rodgers' age and the high contact sport that is, football, it's tough. The odds are stacked against him, but I do think he's able to finish his career strong, play well for Pittsburgh, get some other guys involved to show you. I mean, like, again, kind of show you what you have. Calvin Austin III, he's a pretty good wide receiver who just hasn't really had consistent enough quarterback play to really showcase that. Metcalf, obviously, everybody knows what he can do. Robert Woods, proven veteran, but like Roman Wilson, that's a guy you drafted last year, wanted to see kind of do a little something. He got injured, didn't really do a whole lot. Like, Rodgers gives the opportunity for these other guys that have been waiting on a shot for a consistent quarterback. It gives those guys a chance to actually, make the most of their opportunity. And I think it's going to benefit Pittsburgh in the long run. Now, they did draft Caleb Johnson as well to help out at running back. This is a much different running back room. Najee's obviously gone. He's in LA now. So you have Jalen Warren, Caleb Johnson, and Kenneth Gainwell and Trey Sermon for the running back room. And honestly, in my opinion, this is a pretty good running back room. I mean, even if Caleb Johnson happens to not be a whole lot, Kenneth Gainwell has proven to be somewhat solid in minimal snaps back in Philadelphia. So to me, Jalen Warren, great player. Caleb Johnson, a rookie with a lot of upside. Kenneth Gainwell, he's shown some flashes. And even Trey Sermon, he's like, a viable running back 3, maybe even running back 2, especially in an offense like this. So for me, I actually really like the Steelers' offense this year. I think it's been constructed really, really well. You even got Troy Fautanu, your top pick last year. He's back and healthy. So there's a lot to be excited about. Zach Frazier, again, your young center, he's back. I'm excited for Pittsburgh. It's a very, very competitive division. Rodgers, even though I am confident in him, is definitely still a big question mark. Robert Woods, in my opinion, not necessarily who you want starting at wide receiver 3 at this stage of his career. No hate to him, but let's be real here. So maybe Roman Wilson steps up. Maybe it's Scotty Miller. I don't care who it is, but that's really the story of Pittsburgh for me. And that's why I love the Rodgers signing, is because it can raise the ceiling of all those guys that are like borderline, maybe pretty good. They can really prove something now with a proven quarterback like Rodgers. I don't think we're getting the Jets' Aaron Rodgers, but I don't think we're getting 6 years ago Aaron Rodgers either. It's going to be somewhere in between. I think he's going to be very solid. I don't think he's going to be a top quarterback in the NFL, but he's going to keep you competitive in a very competitive division, and I'm excited for Pittsburgh in that sense. And defensively, you got guys like Darius Slay, proven veteran, Cameron Hayward, proven veteran. Now you obviously bring in Jalen Ramsey in that trade where you send off Minkah Fitzpatrick. These are big moves, and I'll give Pittsburgh credit there because sometimes it seems like they are cool with just floating in the middle, not doing a whole lot, and that's it. But this offseason, you go and you get Metcalf. You have the guts to say this is not working with Pickens, and you let him go. You send him to Dallas. So I do applaud them for that because it hasn't always been the Pittsburgh mentality to make these big, risky, honestly, offseason moves, but they're doing it. They brought in Metcalf. They got rid of Pickens. They brought in a quarterback. They got rid of Najee. They got rid of Minkah. They bring in Ramsey. You can't say now that they're at least not trying to make those big splash moves to really increase the ceiling of this team, because I think for so many people, when you watch the Steelers, they're a good team, but for the most part, they're not going to be a threat in the playoffs either. And it's been like that for the past 4 or 5 years now. So it sucks, but at the same time, it's like you got to turn that around sometime. And I think that's the start of what we're seeing right now is these moves being made. Things are trying to be turned around for the better. like Jalen Ramsey. I mean, this is someone that is a top corner in the NFL. He has been for pretty much his entire career. I think even now that he's older and at the tail end of his career, he's still very much a good cornerback in the NFL. He's very much a starting cornerback. Joey Porter Jr., very physical corner, great player. Deshaun Elliott, they just recently re-signed. So they have confidence in a lot of these guys, and it's like, when you have people like Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, Patrick Queen, those guys that are just pure just game wrecker players, I mean, all they do is disrupt. It's all they do. They are constantly disrupting, whether it's getting sacks or tackles for loss or pressures or passes defended. It doesn't matter what it is. Those type of players are what Pittsburgh's really built their identity off of for forever now. And they're continuing to do that while also trying to make these bigger moves. And that's why I like a lot of what they've done, because you're never going to get back to the Super Bowl just kind of sitting in the middle saying, okay, well, we broke 500. We made the playoffs. It is what it is. Like, you got to make that next step. This offseason, to me, has been Pittsburgh taking that next step. Even if it doesn't pay off this season, they are at least trying to get somewhere, and I respect that. So to talk about a few of these players just on the screen here, just some guys I personally want to talk a bit more about. Just to be clear, as I say this in every video, just because a player is not listed, it is not because I don't believe in them. This is literally just talking points for me and a nice visual for you guys just to kind of follow along. It's not like if I don't have, Jalen Warren listed, it's not because I don't like Jalen Warren, okay? Just for example. So for Aaron Rodgers, I did give him the star, which is, for me, just star potential relative to the team. So I'm not saying he's going to be a star player this year, even across the league, but for the team, I do believe he can be a star. And that's what Rodgers has been brought in to do. Yeah, it's his last year in the NFL. Yeah, he's older, but you still don't bring in a starting quarterback like this if you don't think he's going to elevate your team, your players, your culture. You just don't do that. So I do think Rodgers will be very good. I think he'll be better than what we've seen the past few years. How high that's capped off at, I really don't know, because, again, this is kind of uncharted territory with an all-time great quarterback at 40 years old, playing off a torn Achilles now 2 years removed. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that we don't really know fully what to expect because we haven't really seen it before. But if anyone's able to be good, be that good at this stage of his career, despite the injuries, I believe it is Aaron Rodgers, because he is an all-time great, and I think it's easy to overlook him, honestly, when you look at the past 10 years because of maybe his lack of Super Bowls and playoff success at times, when in reality, he's one of the most talented quarterbacks ever even think about football. So, yeah, I'm not going to say he's prime Aaron Rodgers at this point, but I think to write him off completely isn't fair either. So I still think he has that star potential for the team. Caleb Johnson I gave the eyes to for player to watch. I want to be clear on this as well, because I have the unproven mark down there, just the question mark. I don't throw this around a lot because I try not to use this on rookies because, yes, a rookie is obviously unproven. But I try and use that grade on more of a starting player who's been in the league for a few years now who still does not have my confidence, basically. So, for example, at some point when we do the Colts, I will have unproven next to Anthony Richardson, just to be clear there. So, yes, player to watch for me, Caleb Johnson. Technically, he's unproven, but that's not really what that grade is supposed to be for, if that makes sense. But I did give him the eyes because this is the Steelers, and they are not afraid to run the football, whether it's Rodgers playing for this team or whether it's still Mitchell Trubisky. It doesn't matter. They would love to run the football if possible, and you have a very good running back room. Caleb Johnson has the highest ceiling out of any other running back in the room, in my opinion, and that is really why I gave him the eyes. This is someone that can start out with minimal snaps, grow his role, and then really have a huge second half of the season. That's kind of how I picture the season going for him. So he has the eyes for me. Metcalf has the star. I don't think any surprise for really anyone here. Metcalf, very physical, fast, great hands. He has a lot of really good traits for his size and his speed. And, I think he brings that to Pittsburgh. Absolutely. I think it would have been cool to see him play alongside George Pickens, but I also understand the Steelers making that move to, kind of have a fresh start for both sides, and you still bring in a wide receiver who's absolutely able to fill the role that Pickens just had. So I like the move. I respect it. I think Rodgers and Metcalf is a very interesting duo that I never thought we would see, especially in Pittsburgh, out of all places, but here we are. So I gave him the star, and I gave the second-year offensive lineman, Troy Fautanu, the star as well, coming back and healthy. I think this was a phenomenal pick when they made it. I think last year was just a little unfortunate. I think he can be one of the best guys, if not the best, on this offensive line for them. I expect a big bounce back second season for Troy Fautanu. And then Roman Wilson, I gave the eyes to as a player to watch. Again, is he unproven? Yes, but we are not quite to that point yet where I feel like I need to use that grade. He's still a player to watch for me because last season didn't have much of a chance and opportunity. He kind of got buried in the depth chart after missing time with that injury. Now you got Rodgers as your quarterback. I mean, wide receiver 3, in my opinion, is very much up for grabs between Robert Woods and Roman Wilson. So I'd love to see Roman Wilson really expand his role this year and branch into that wide receiver 3 role. Whether that happens or not, we will see. But I'm fairly confident that it's possible for that to happen. Defensively, Patrick Queen has the star. Again, very physical player, great linebacker. It was a great move for Pittsburgh to bring him in from Baltimore anyways. And so now he's back in his second year in Pittsburgh, gave him the star. Not even thinking about it. TJ Watt has the gem for top 5. I have ish in parentheses, so yeah, top 5, 6, maybe even 7 is what this grade can be attributed to. Watt is absolutely, though, top 5 at his position. He is technically not paid yet, so it is a thing to watch, but to be honest with you, I am just not worried about that at all. So maybe I'll be shocked and something big will happen, but as of right now, I'm not worried about it. He's starting week 1 in my eyes, and he absolutely deserves a top 5 defensive end gem there. Jalen Ramsey, who they brought in, I still have the star on him. I still think Ramsey can be a very, very good corner. I think he is a very good corner, and I'm excited to see him in this Pittsburgh defense. This is one of those moves that I think caught a lot of people by surprise because of what they changed and gave up to really bring in Ramsey, such as Minkah Fitzpatrick. But again, I respect the move. I respect trying to make these big splash moves to greatly improve your team, and because the Steelers have not always been doing that. But I like the move. Ramsey's a phenomenal player. I still have the star on him. Peyton Wilson going to year 2, I gave him the star as well. Really fits the culture very well for Pittsburgh. I thought it was a great draft pick at the time. I actually wanted the Panthers, which is my favorite team, to draft him, which they didn't do. But again, I think Peyton Wilson's a great player. There was question marks around his health coming out of the draft, but I think he's a very physical player. He has actually pretty good hand-eye coordination as well for a linebacker. So again, very physical, can follow the ball, make tackles, can do whatever you want. He is that Steelers archetype linebacker, and I gave him the star heading into year 2. Might be a little generous, but I am pretty confident in that. And those are just some guys I want to talk about a little bit more additionally. But again, I see this being potentially a big year for Pittsburgh, but it's not going to come without its challenges because of your conference at large. I mean, the AFC is just absolutely stacked, and then even just your division. I mean, this is a 3-team race for first place. No hate to the Browns, but the Bengals and the Ravens, I mean, these are Super Bowl contenders that are in the same division as you. So it's going to be tough. I think the Steelers are built to compete with that, though. They've always been built to compete against that. Just a little chart I made just so it's easy to kind of see what I'm thinking here as far as the offense and the defense grades. I have the offense, and this is really tough for me. I have the offense at B+. I kept kind of flirting with the idea of having it either A- or B+. I went to B+ just because of the Rodgers question mark paired with the lack of wide receiver depth. So that was kind of my line of thinking there. If you're confident in the wide receiver room or even just an Aaron Rodgers, that's probably an A-tier offense for you. I understand that. So again, I understand if you guys have that, pretty valid, but I have it more B+ just because there are some question marks. I'm not going to pretend there's not. I'm also not going to pretend that this is the most reliable wide receiver room I've ever seen in the NFL either, because it's definitely not. Defensively, I have them down to A+, which, I mean, I had them at S tier, and I brought them down again. Defense, if you have an S tier, I don't blame you. I mean, to be honest with you, there's a lot of things to love about the Steelers' defense. So I don't know. Maybe I'm talking myself into making them S tier right now. Either way, though, they're a top defense in the league. I mean, you could say top 5, 6, whatever you want to say. I do think that they're going to be very, very good this year. So I have them at A+, and overall just being about an A to an A- team across the entire NFL. And I do think that I am pretty confident, actually, in this ranking just because we've seen the Steelers be competitive over the past couple of seasons, even when it didn't look like on paper that they would be. Well, in my opinion, this looks a bit better on paper, so you would think if things are going, the same trend, they should be probably pretty good. Again, to me, it's not really even because if everything goes well, right, for the Steelers on offense and defense and all that, to me, it's also more of a, who you're going against, who you have to try and beat 2 times a year, who you have to try and beat on the road. I mean, this is not a cakewalk of a schedule by any means, and I don't think there's anything that's a cakewalk in the NFL, but it's definitely not one for the Steelers. So for their record this year, I gave them 9-8, which I was very close to giving them 10-7, but it's just so tough. I mean, we're in July, right? I mean, it is so difficult to sit here in July and say, okay, they're gonna lose in week 14 in November. Like you just can't do that. Like it's too hard. So I tried my best here. I have them winning the first 3 games of the year though, beating the Jets, bit of a rodgers revenge game, beating Seattle and Pittsburgh, and beating New England on the road. Now, I do have them losing to the Vikings. They're in week 4, and I have them beating the Browns. I have them losing to the Bengals in Cincinnati, losing to the Packers in Pittsburgh, beating the Colts, losing to the Chargers, beating the Bengals there in Pittsburgh. So, again, let's talk about a few different ways this can go. So, the divisional games, just overall, I mean, it would take way too much time to go into each one because it's just such a competitive division. It always has been for the most part. So I can really see it's going either way. I think they sweep the Browns regardless. As for the Bengals and the Ravens, I have them splitting, but this could just as easily be a sweep for Pittsburgh or a sweep for the Cincinnati Bengals or a sweep for the Baltimore Ravens. Seriously, to me, it's really tough to call this, especially this early on. I could see the Chargers game going the other way, though. I could even see the Seahawks game going the other way, though, as well. So there's a few games that definitely are a bit tougher to pick. The Bears game as well could definitely go either way. But I'm confident in the 9-8 just because that this is a tough team that's going to be tested, and 9-8 is not a bad record. And I think people are going to see that and go, wow, that's so low. But to be honest, in the AFC, if you're cracking 500 in the AFC, you are in good shape, even if you're not even a playoff team. Obviously, the goal is to win that Super Bowl or to make the playoffs and all that stuff. Pittsburgh, they are good enough to be a playoff team. The reality is there are teams in the AFC that are absolutely playoff-worthy teams that aren't going to get in because it's just that competitive. So, to me, 9-8 for the Steelers in a year where they still don't really have their franchise quarterback and they still have a lack of depth on offense, I think you can absolutely live with a 9-8 record. I know it's still that middle-of-the-road territory that they've been stuck in, but to me, until you find that franchise quarterback, you're going to be stuck in it for a little while. You might as well make some of those other moves to improve your team, and I think they did that. So to me, if 9-8 is wrong and they get more, it is really going to be because of the offense stepping up, because that's been a huge killer for Pittsburgh for the past couple of seasons, in my opinion, is the offensive consistency. So if that changes, then this could be 2 games better. This could be 1 game better. I mean, that's the thing about the NFL is so many games go either way, and every game matters. That's why it's so hard to predict this stuff accurately. But in my opinion, the 9-8 record can show that they stay competitive like they always do. They got some of those close wins that they didn't really deserve, but they also lost to some teams that are just really good. That's just the reality of the AFC right now. I mean, the Bills are a really, really good football team. I mean, that's going to be very tough to beat them. The Chargers are a very, very good football team. It's going to be tough to beat them. The Dolphins, maybe they're not the best team in the world, but they're going to be competitive because that's just what the middle-of-the-road teams are like in the AFC. So, for me, 9-8 for Pittsburgh. I don't think you're panicking. I think you're panicking if other things other than quarterback are failing. If your defense is letting you down, that's a big issue if your defense is the reason you went 9-8. To me, if the reason you went 9-8 is because of a lack of wide receiver help and Aaron Rodgers is getting too old and it's his final year, you can live with that because you're not dealing with that next season, right? You're still building the team. It's just one of those things where that's what happened to happen this year. Again, if it's a defensive issue, if it's a running back room issue, if it's an offensive line issue, it's a bit more worrisome. But I think if you go 9-8 when Rodgers is just on his way out, I mean, I think it's only up from there, really, because you're already making the moves. It's just about finding your quarterback. So that's my record prediction for the Steelers, 9-8. Let me know down below what you guys think of this. I know some might have some problems with it. I understand. But for me, that's just what I feel the most confident for Pittsburgh. Let me know down below, though, what you guys think of Rodgers. Is he going to be good this year? Is he going to be a huge bust of a move and it was just stupid? Let me down below. If you guys enjoyed, though, be sure to leave a like. It helps out the channel a whole lot. I would really appreciate that. Subscribe if you guys are new. The next video is going to be the Browns. It's the last team in the AFC North, and we're going to be keeping this going because I got to get all these videos out before September, which is going to be here a lot quicker than we all think. So thanks for watching. I do really appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.